All right, everybody. Happy New Year to everybody. Good to have you guys here. Yeah, getting ready for what's to come here with the start of Big Ten play, or the resumption of Big Ten play. Really good, tough-minded Rutgers team. You probably heard me on the radio show talk about how close these games have been with us last couple of years. They are tough-minded, physical. Great length across the board, so be a great challenge, and then obviously really good Indiana team on Saturday. So full week, and our guys are focused on here. They enjoyed the West Virginia win, but we're focused on moving on to Big Ten play.
Rutgers has a top 20 defensive rating right now. Just what challenges do they present on that end of the floor?
Their length, their physicality, they change defenses, so we're going to see a combination of different defenses, and they're really good at all of them. They press, which can take you out of things. Their press does a good job of being disruptive, yet at the same time shortening the shot clock, making it a situation where you're working with a limited shot clock. So all those things, but more than anything, like any good defensive team, you just tell they've got great defenders, but they also have a team-wide commitment to it, and they've been another really good defensive team, and a lot of it's anchored by one of the best shot blockers in the country too.
You guys entered this stretch last year with a similar record this January, February, obviously full-time Big Ten play. I guess is there anything said, anything with the team to, you know, sort of get the message across, like, hey, stay focused, keep playing good basketball, and not, you know, have what happened last year happen again?
No, I think we've talked about that enough. We've talked about some of the challenges that we faced last year, and really, in some ways, we have looked at those as a really positive thing for us here in terms of learning from that experience and moving forward. But listen, it's a different schedule than what you play in November and December. It's apples and oranges. So the whole idea of, you know, I've shared example after example of, you know, you look at UConn that went through a stretch last year, I think, where they lost 5 of 6 or 6 of 7. You know, Purdue lost 3 out of 4 last year. This is the reality of league play. Arizona loses at a Stanford team earlier in the week by 20 plus. You know, it's the challenge of league play all over the country, and those that are in it, they get it. You know, those that have coached or played or observed college basketball, like, they get it, they understand it. Not everybody's going to understand it. For us, we have to stay focused on just getting better and learning from every opportunity in front of us. And the challenges, just keep learning and growing. And what I've been pleased with is the commitment of this group to do just that up to this point.
You talk about an elite defensive team that changes defenses. How much is on Bruce's shoulders as the game is going on to sort out what's being thrown at them and adapt? How much of that can you coach in the moment? What's the key to handling that?
Yeah, we need to prepare them as well as we can, Adam, and make sure that we're being aggressive, appropriately aggressive against it. And you know, it's hard to mimic their size and length and speed, against that you're going to see. So some of it, a little bit like the West Virginia zone, where it took us a minute, took us too long. It took us the last part of the first half to kind of figure it out. And then once we had much better movement in the second half, we really attacked it well. I think there'll be some moments where we got to figure some things out, but you want to stay aggressive in terms of your attack.
Is that seems like it's maybe a common thing that you've talked about when you face some of these zones that have maybe thrown you? You've talked about just being more aggressive, more ball moving, things like that.
Yeah.
How do you coach that, and where is this team as far as needing to play with that type of aggression and movement to solve whatever defense is thrown at it?
Well, we were really good in the second half. Our OER against the zone was good. It was a number you would definitely take for an overall OER offensive efficiency rating for the game. So when you look at our offensive numbers against the zone, we attacked it really well outside of that stretch in the end of the first half. So I think we changed a little bit how we were attacking it in terms of more movement. Some zones are a little bit more traditional, where you can, you might run one zone offense, and then it just doesn't do what you like it to do, and then you have to adjust, and that's what we did in the second half, and our guys did a great job attacking it.
Chris, as far as the zones go, you guys, I think you've mentioned that you are seeing more of that this year than maybe you expected, some of the matchup zone. How does that change what you do in practice now, I guess, compared to the beginning of the season maybe?
Yeah, I mean, we've at this point, we had faced zone about 4% of the possessions last year. We faced about 22% of the possessions this year, so it is a different number. And some of it's been, some unique zones or some zone demand looks that we've faced against some teams. Probably just got to work on a little bit more. But again, I was really pleased with our last, really 25 minutes of the attack against the zone. It was I think, a real improvement, to be honest with you. And we just got to keep doing that.
You mentioned on your radio show, Jameson Battle really improving on the glass. What does that say about a fifth-year guy to kind of up his game in a category that maybe previously in his career was maybe not a strong suit for him?
Yeah, no, I think he's really embraced that aspect of his game. It needs to be a part of who he is as a player right now, as opposed to just a perimeter scorer, a gifted scorer. He's got to become a complete player in terms of his defense and his rebounding. I think he's embraced that now. Will we as a group stay committed to the offensive glass like we need to these last couple months when it's going to be harder is the challenge. It's been a strength for us. Will it be that? We've got to stay committed to it. Did you?
You mentioned the Rutgers press. Obviously, having a guy like Bruce, that makes it nice to attack. They're obviously going to get the ball out of Bruce's hands.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the other guys on your team having that ball control and security going up against that press?
Good. I think we need better continued growth in that area with guys like Roddy and Dale. They're going to be two guys that are going to be primary ball handlers. Jameson will as well. Scotty will as well. Evans can handle it at the forward spot. I think we need improved play. But you look at Roddy's numbers. If Roddy can continue to limit some of his careless turnovers, his playmaking has been outstanding, and he's really going to be a primary playmaker for us. So his ball skills have to continue to grow, and his decision making has to continue to grow as it has.
One area that I know this group has grown from last year to this year is when you get to those key moments in the games at winning time, there's more than one guy that can take the shot and wants to take the shot. How good is it having that understanding going into this now big gauntlet stretch of the season?
Good, and I think we really saw that in the last game, where we had three guys make plays for us. It's hard when, we talked about this, you kind of always had the lead. It was just about a 2-possession lead for the most of the game. Sometimes it got more than that, but it was always relatively close. But when you have the lead and then it gets tied, there's, that can impact your psyche. Our guys did a great job, and then, they played with great resolve and great toughness. And to your point, I think we had 3 different guys step up and make threes there in the last couple minutes.
I know when you sit in your office preseason, you don't have an actual paper that say this is where we want to be going into conference play. Where do you think your strengths are as you get ready for this, and what do you want to see from this team?
Yeah, I love where we're at right now. Apart from, I don't really look at necessarily the record, because again, there's games in there that you really should win that are just kind of a part of your schedule. But I do think just the way in which we played in some of these stretches, we have a lot to get better in. But I think we've beaten some solid teams. I think the Alabama win was really good. I think we've just had some good stretches of play, and we've also had some play where we know we've got to get better. I think we identified some things coming out of Christmas, 4 areas that we've got to continue to grow in, and that's really been our focus. Beyond anything else is just improving daily on those 4 areas, and I think we've got to continue to take steps in that, and that will help us, grow as a group.
What are those 4 areas?
Yeah, some of them you would guess by watching us. Probably you would say, hey, that kind of makes sense. I don't have to be a coach and coach for 30 years to figure out you got to get better in that area. But I've kept those between us right now. But a couple of them you'd say, yeah, that makes sense.
And then when you put together a team in the off season, see transfer portal is a whole new thing, but you're trying to build a puzzle. It seems like this year that puzzle has fit really well when you look at the pieces you've added. What do you think about Jameson and Evan and these guys, where they're at?
Good. Really good. I think obviously Jameson's provided exactly what we needed in terms of the scoring element, and as we just talked about, his other aspects of his game's improved, but he's made really big shots for us as we've seen. That has answered that exactly what we were hoping for. Now, again, the most challenging stretch of the season is coming in front of us here these next couple of months. I think Dale and Evan are also growing. Dale's provided great moments for us. We need more consistency out of him. Evan, we need just evolution. He's a young player. He's one of that sophomore class right now. He's a young player that's growing and evolving. He's a great kid. So we need him to continue to grow as a player. I really feel good about those 3 additions, but we're challenging them to bring even more because we know it's going to be needed.
How have the previous games from earlier this season, or even maybe just the West Virginia win, help prepare you guys now to open the conference portion of your schedule?
I mean, I think it helps. I think it just helps the way that the game kind of went in terms of, as we talked about, the kind of the resiliency needed in a game like that, where you're disappointed that it went to overtime, but you realize give them credit too, and we've got to do some things better there late as coaches and players. But I really give our guys a lot of credit. I think it'll help us. The UCLA game was pretty close too, so we played in some close games here. Penn State, A&M, UCLA, and obviously West Virginia, the overtime game. So I think that's really going to help us here as we move forward, not to mention the Oakland game at home.
Just your overall assessment of Big Ten as you had it. I know generally when you think of it, but this year specifically from all the teams you've watched, what do you guys kind of get yourselves into?
I haven't been able to watch maybe a ton. And I'll be honest with you, if I have a free night, I don't love to watch the Big Ten. I love the league, but it gets me working and it gets me a little anxious and the heart rate gets elevated. And I'd rather, if I'm going to relax, maybe watch another league that I haven't watched, just to kind of get my mind focused on something different, or I'll watch the NBA. So in my free time, I don't watch a ton for that reason. It really becomes work when I do. But the games that I have seen, I've been really impressed, I think, with what I've said, the depth of our league. You look at a Michigan State team that struggled early, but then, beat Baylor by 52-18 at one point, You look at just so many teams. I just think it's the depth of the league. I think it's the Big 12 and the Big 10, top to bottom, the 2 deepest leagues in the country. However you evaluate leagues, I've said this for years, a lot of people evaluate them, how many teams can win a national championship or get to a Final Four, that's fine. But the depth of the league I would put up against anybody, and I think it's, again, I've told you this, guys, it's so different than my first year, because the league was not deep my first year. It was just not. Adam, you were here, and some of you guys were here. It just was not a very deep league. It was 4 teams that went to the tournament. I think the 4th team barely got in. I think maybe that year Nebraska might have been that was the year maybe Nebraska might have finished 2nd or 3rd in the league and didn't make the tournament. Since that point, it's been so deep. It just makes it much different than playing night in and night out than what that first year was.
You were talking on the radio show about rebounding. You're talking about the offensive glass and maybe the same kind of commitment on the defense.
Yeah.
Why do you see differences? What is it about?
Well, it's something we're continuing to evaluate, to be honest with you, is I think our intentionality needs to really grow, and we've challenged guys with that. Our pursuit can get better, but I think that's something that we have really challenged guys with, and constantly what we're asking is there's an imbalance there that we need to get better at.
You talked, I think it was after the game, about some guys that need to lose themselves more in the flow of the game, and their offense will come. You do have some guys off the bench. You mentioned like Dale and Scotty on the radio, that just their offense hasn't been where maybe it was earlier this season.
Yeah.
As you get to this part of the schedule, like where are maybe those guys as far as trying to regain their offensive confidence? And not that you need them to come in and give you 20, but you probably need a little more contribution than you're getting from some of them right now.
Yeah, I think that's valid. I think that's valid. That would certainly help us for us to be the kind of team we need. We do need a little bit more punch offensively off the bench. I think they've just got to keep taking good shots. I think some of it's happened maybe with Scotty. You know, when you're young, you press a little bit offensively. You force the issue, and that can work against you. So he's got to continue to find ways to impact offensively versus pressing the issue. That's a learning balance for a young player. I think Dale's fine. Dale's just got to keep working and taking good shots and shoot the ball with confidence. He's a good shooter. I'm confident he will. But I think you're right. That's going to be important for us here in Big Ten play, is to have a little bit of pop off the bench on nights, pretty much every night.
And you mentioned a minute ago talking about like UCLA game was close, A&M, Penn State, West Virginia. Like you've had some wins, some losses in those moments. I know parity in college basketball is bigger than it's ever been, and all these things we've talked about. From your viewpoint, when people say, well, trying to hold on to a win, whether your team is good at that or not good at that, is it just a zero-sum game? You win, then you're good at it, or like what is fair to question and criticize when it's an 8-point game and it goes to overtime, and when it's an 18-point game and turns into a loss? Like, what do you think is fair and what's not fair to analyze and criticize in those moments?
Well, I don't know if I am one to really focus on that too much, Adam, because I think, in professions like ours, there's going to be a criticism that is understandable and a part of the job, and then there's going to be criticism that's just completely irrelevant, and sometimes there's an agenda behind it. So I think as much as anything, you just try to focus on what we can do as a group and as coaches to potentially limit a run. I do think the benefit of perspective you have as a coach is you see all these games in college basketball, as you mentioned, and you follow it very closely, where leads get lost like that. I thought I'd seen everything until I saw Michigan State at Iowa last year lose in a fashion I had not seen. It was like 11 inside of the last minute, wasn't it? You guys read the numbers on that. The three-point shot, the shortened shot clock, has really changed your ability to either come back or to lose a lead. And I think what we have to do as coaches and players is just look and say, okay, are there pockets of those games? And I didn't sense that as much in the West Virginia game, certainly as the Penn State game, but are there pockets of the game where we didn't do our job as well as we needed to? In the Penn State game, was really on the glass. Now, again, you're playing a team at home that's playing with great emotion, but are there things that we can do, to limit those runs? Teams are going to make shots when the momentum is behind them, but there are certainly things within your power, within your control as coaches and players that you feel like you can do and you need to do to limit those runs. Beyond that, that's my only focus. I think to focus on anything else would be a poor use of my time.
Here's the win probability chart for that Michigan State Iowa game.
Oh, was it really? What was it at its
let's see.
Like 98 or something, probably.
It was that I can't find. I can't pop immediately, but I can get back to you on that.
With a couple minutes there.
That's all in like the last minute.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. So, yeah, let's hope we don't see any of that with the Buckeyes this year. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right.